And this you can take even to the next level, which is a challenge, but I'm going to introduce it to you anyway. We call it making right. Yeah? We call it making right, and that is on the next page, 38, making right. If you really want to clean out your department, then one of the most powerful things you can consider is making right. But you first need to fully understand what that means. Making right, so, is a choice. It's a stand. It's not something that needs to be done. It's not something you have to do. It's an opportunity, a possibility. Making right requires that you stop personalizing the issue. It's not about you. Not taking it personal. Somebody broke their word. To make it a personal affair now, that is a conflict in you with regard to what you think they should. If a friend is lying at you, and your concept of friendship says a friend doesn't lie, and then you are offended because your friend lied, then you made it personal. And then it becomes a wrong-making that you may suppress, but they do it another time again, or they do something else, and then the inner bookkeeper is having a file, and when you had enough, then you bring that file on the table, and the other one is judged without a trial. Yeah, they are a liar, and you are not worth your friendship. You don't honor me, you don't know, you don't respect what I do for you, and the whole ugliness of that stuff is happening. You all know what I'm talking about. No? So you can absolutely honor and deal with reality as it is without the need to make it always personal. That's one thing. And the other one is to grant another's perspective being. They might say, this political party is great. You say, no, they are evil and I have facts. They do this and they do that and they do that and da-da-da-da-da. And the other one says, no, I believe. So why going into all that energy of conflict? Take a look and see, can you be so spacious, so great, that you can embrace that the other one is having that perspective? Can you be so spacious, so great, that you have space enough for the other one, any other one, having a different perspective? And granting that being means you give it a conscious, I would almost like to say blessing, but not in the sense that you say this is good. A blessing in the sense of you acknowledge that this is in God's garden a particular flower. Who are you to judge that this flower is a mistake? Who are you? From their perspective, you are the bad flower. From their perspective. They are just in a different culture. What is right here, 6,000 kilometers east, it might be totally wrong. It's just a matter of culture, it's a matter of tradition, it's a matter of moral status, etc., etc. So granting others and their perspective being is a huge evolution in yourself for creating space and freedom. If you have resonance with what's happening over there, then step into taking responsibility. Then respond to it. Engage. Make a difference. Whatever it is you are choosing to do. If not, grant it being. At the end of the day, it's the acknowledgement tool in the 3C tools, what I'm talking about. Acknowledging, that's the tool at the end of the day. On the level of granting being, making right. It's a very high philosophical, evolutionary level, but it's beautiful. If you go into a prison and you look into the eyes of a child abuser, what is your perception? Probably it's judgment. You probably don't want to even look into the eyes of that person. And if you do, you probably cannot help but judge. Especially if you hear the story and if you see the images and all the rest of it. That's how they portray it in court to convince the jury, etc., etc. Do I say child abuse is right? Absolutely not. But consider that that person who did that act was born like you. Innocent. Babies are innocent. Then things happened that caused so much pain, that changed their personality, disconnected them from any form of reason. They have so much pain, they don't know any other way in their unconsciousness than to commit acts like that. Do they feel guilty? Probably they do, or they suppress it. Do you think you make a difference with adding to the judgment of the whole society in the newspapers and all the rest of it? But if you could look at that person through the eyes of understanding that it wasn't always like that in their life, and that they have a history that you might not want to choose as your own destiny at all. If you can understand that, wow, that may change them in their heart. Their heart might open up just because you are perceiving them in this way. And that would make a difference. They will not misunderstand that you think it's good what they have done, but they will feel somebody cares to look over the fence and reaches out to the child that has fallen so deep into the well that it's dark out there. Nobody's reaching down there. So maybe you are the person who does, making the difference. And that applies to everybody. So now, there are 3 categories for you to challenge yourself. The first one is, what person in your life could you start including in your making right context? I chose these words carefully so that you are having not reason to resist considering the possibility. So what person can you include in your context of choosing to make right? First of all, it's a choice to open up to making right. It only happens if you are making that choice. If you make the choice, it's like unconditional love, you have a context. Now you can include your father, you can include a politician, you can include a historic person, or whoever is up to now subject of your judgment. I'm not asking you to make them right as in liking or approving their actions. Absolutely not. It's not required. You are just including them in the making right context so that you are free to transmit an energy of value to them that comes from a perspective that makes you feel higher in your self-esteem, not higher in comparison to them, but in yourself. That represents the light and not the darkness. That makes you feel connected to not only what happened when they did what they did, but to the whole person, the whole story. So it works like this, as you see on the screen. I declare to include my father in my making right context as an example. So this will do, for those of you who want, you can stand up and just say that. No story, no nothing for what happened, just making that statement. It's very powerful if you choose to do that, so you can fully own it. And you can do as many people as you choose, but only one at a time. Thank you. Number 2 is just adding to it, so people are still open, of course, but we are expanding the context now to what group of people or personalities could you start including in your making right context. Yeah, group of people could be races, could be religions, could be organizations, clubs, them in all colors. Thank you. And expanding it also to the third category, what organizations, institutions could you start including in your making right context? Political parties, of course, are also there. Thank you for having opened up to that enormous degree, which is extraordinary. I just want you to close your eyes for a moment and sense into how do you feel right now. And just notice what you notice. And how does it feel to feel that? No story, just experiencing the feeling. Thank you. Consider that stuck parts of your destiny, stuck parts of your life, might get unstuck just like that if you mean what you just did. All these people, personalities, organizations, etc., represent a particular energy. Your link to that energy and your position got that flow of that energy stuck in your reality. And the principle that you made wrong played out in your reality in its own particular way. If you make something externally wrong, it could show up internally as a psychological, as a physical, as an emotional, as a spiritual, same principle of making wrong something. And then your evolution spiritually or emotionally, mentally is stuck. And that stuckness then is part of what you experience as your reality, and that usually causes suffering. Yeah. So you are encouraged to have expectations.